everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Sofa Chat Stories, episode number 5.
Are you sure it's 5?
Yeah, I think it's 5.
I think it's 6.
I'm pretty sure it's 5, but we will check after the recording. And welcome. And today's topic is the modern education.
Modern education.
We'll be discussing some juicy topics today. And I would like to open this with a question to you, Giuseppe, about what education do you have?
My education, I have the bachelor degree, the master degree. I have, in Italy anyhow, to be called engineer, you need to do other 4 exams. And after that, you become from doctor in engineering to engineer. Even for the IT is the same. But out of Italy, it does not have any value, or at least they don't pay too much attention to the title. And after I have a bunch of certification for Agile, Scrum, Prince, ETL, something that is like not related IT, is related management, useful.
You have Scrum Master? Scrum Master
yeah,
certificate?
I'm also Scrum Master, I'm also product owner, I'm also a bunch of other things that are really nice in my curriculum, and a lot of times it's just things that you study and you use it every day. But still, it's not part of this kind of mandatory education, like personal choices about the certification. I would say that the main education path is the bachelor in computer engineering and in the master of science in computer engineering. Indeed, there was like the first one that was focused on robotics. The second one was more in software. But still, it was pretty nice indeed.
Okay.
I was like chill. I cannot say, of course, that was useful, because when you start working, every single thing that you studied during the university is not used. You need to find your own balance. You need to study the things that are needed. You need to have this mental flexibility. And I guess that they should make some change in the university for the subject to study. Something more up to date.
We will get to the problems. So how many times was it useful for yourself in your life?
What?
The education, that you have a diploma and then...
Okay, what usually people say about education, that it gives you a mindset. So basically that spending time studying in the books, in internet and everything will help you to understand that you will never be ready in life. Usually when companies ask for a degree, is not to know how much, what is the level of your education. That one is to understand if you can bring something to a conclusion, if you can complete something. Because at the end of the day, imagine that to take like 3 years degree is doable. Why a workplace would know if you get a degree? Just to know if you can bring something to an end.
Here I would like to add some spicy questions to it.
Of course, go ahead.
So, for example, do you think that education is necessary for you to start working in a company? Because in my mind, and like how I usually hire people into my team of engineers, I don't really care about what degree you have. Even if you don't have a degree, I don't really care about that. Even if you just finished the school or high school or whatever it is called in your country, I don't really care. Even if you're like PhD in math or science, to me, that doesn't really matter.
Imagine that you have like 15 people applying. Do you call them all of 15 to the first interview, or you use some criteria to decide which one are the one that are more suitable for the position?
So in the case, for example, we had this situation before. So let's say we have 2 candidates applying to the same position, but we can only pick one. And the first candidate has like a master's degree in something, but literally has no public profile on the GitHub, for example, has no examples of the code of any projects, and nothing in the portfolio. And we have a second candidate, no education after the high school, no university, no nothing. But he has a lot of things in the GitHub, like completed projects, something in the portfolio. And in my personal view, I would always choose the second candidate because the
But
person
choosing
was
for what?
for work, like to
No.
hire for the junior.
Here we are
Position.
talking about to do one first interview, because of course after, even if you have one GitHub account, you need to prove that the code is yours. So probably myself, I would not call only the person with the master degree, but I would call them both to the first interview so they can give me some more information about their background, about what are their passions, about what they did till now. Maybe there is like someone that is more involved in some other activity that is still is not visible in the resume. Maybe there is like maybe the resume is not well done, especially for people that they have not extensive experience. Sometimes happen that the curriculum is terrible, but after the person is a genius. So I would say that, I may call them both for the first interview. And of course, after you understand if the person is a good fit for the team, for the project, because at the end, you know that if you are hiring a rock star and is not working well with the other people, it's something negative.
Okay, but in my mind, yes, I would definitely call both of them if I have a choice. Like if the HR would tell me, like, you can call them both and we can do some pre-screening.
It's not HR. It's basically think you are the hiring manager. You are the one deciding. So in this moment, you are just saying, okay, who I decide to start the hiring process to just go to the first interview. After you may decide to drop it because of any reason. But here we are just talking. You're not giving the position yet. There are like 2-3 phases, and you say there is one guy that has extensive experience in coding. He did some work for open source project. He's sharing his increments in GitHub. He has like a better profile in his LinkedIn, but he does not have experience. He does not have any education. From the other side, you have a person that studied but does not have any experience. It does not mean that the person is better than the other one, but means that there are two different people. You are giving like an opportunity to these two different people to show how they are. So at that point, myself, I would call them both and I would listen.
Okay, if I would take the stance and if I was able to call only one person, I would still choose the candidate with the practical experience. Of course,
me too.
Of course, if they need to prove it. And here is my first major problem with the technical and engineering education. In most countries in the world, especially where education is free and people cherish and they say like, okay, we have a free education, this is such a good thing. I have some problems with it because in my mind, the tech in general, the AI, the engineering, the coding, the programming languages, they evolve so fast that universities cannot keep up at all. I give you an example, and I graduated from one of the best universities in Ukraine, like a Kiev Polytechnical Institute, which is a university. And just to give you some funny examples.
Can I correct your pronunciation of Ukrainian? Is a Kiev.
Well, yes, but it's located in Kiev, definitely, but it's one of the top 3. Some years it's like a top 1, sometimes it's top 2, but it's definitely like one of the top universities in Ukraine. And my problem was that in 2012, 2013, we were studying engineering and coding of like some mechanical solutions and problems. And you know what language we were using 10 years ago?
Assembly?
Guess. No.
C?
No.
C++?
Pascal.
Fuck.
Turbo Pascal.
Okay.
And we were taught by the...
Have you ever did a project in your work experience using Pascal?
No, Pascal is dead.
But was dead when they teached you Pascal?
Pascal was dead when it appeared on the market. basically.
Yeah.
It was a dead language. I mean, why would you need a Pascal if you have C and C++ for solving like mechanical problems? But anyways, we were taught in the Pascal, and it passed, and it was like for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We were learning how to do object-oriented programming in a Pascal. And this is the top university of Ukraine, where people claim that the top engineers are graduated. And of course, I just realized that something is really wrong, because I really wanted to start to make some money at that point, and I just realized that people don't use Pascal at all. Like, they just use JavaScript to build some, I don't know, web apps. In that part, there was no SaaS. And that time, it was just like websites. There were backend applications. The Python was just on the rise. The Python was not really a big thing back in the days. And there was a lot of JavaScript. There was C and C++. And there was a Perl, a Ruby, and other languages. And I just started realizing that, I mean, why would I need Pascal? And this was like my first and biggest problem with the education. It just cannot keep up with the modern world at all. So what I mean, in short, is that the universities, they teach you a very outdated skills and knowledge. And that wouldn't be a problem if you wouldn't spend 4 years in the university. In Ukraine, you spend 4 years to get your bachelor's degree.
Yeah,
I know
it
that
is also in Italy before, but I think that nowadays is like 3+2, if I'm not wrong. There was like different changes at the university.
Okay, but still, imagine spending 4 years to learn outdated skills.
Okay, but also when I went to my bachelor degree, that one was like the coding class was in C. C, okay, maybe is a bit better than Pascal.
A bit
But
better.
still,
It's much better.
Okay, but at
C
that
is
point
still
there
alive
was
and
like
kicking.
Java. People was working using Java, and we were like using C. That in the work market in that moment was like not needed at all.
I think C is needed still. Like
C++, not C.
C is also needed for like embedded programming. If you can see, the demand for embedded coders is still high. And then when you need to program some GPUs or CPUs, you most likely will be using assembly in the pair with the C. There is no C++ in the coding microchips.
So maybe I'm working in the wrong place. I should work by using C. But I dislike the language. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I would do maybe something completely different than coding in C.
Yeah, and okay, let's move on to the second problem, and you can please feel free to comment on it. I think that most of the universities, they teach theory, which is good. I mean, everyone needs to know theory, but they absolutely don't teach. They don't give any practice to the students, or they give it but not enough, so people cannot apply their theory skills that they just learned in the real world. For example, I've been studying math, like very deep into details, like integrals, a lot of things, a lot of like theorems. You need to learn them by the brain, and then when you go on the exam, you need to prove to the professor that you know like the entire explanation of what theorem does. But we never had any chance to.
Why we are studying math? Why is useful at that levels? Especially if you are in IT, I understand that you need to have like some understanding of math, but not like studying every single thing. Because even if it's part of engineering, you don't use that things in your working life.
Some people say it develops your mind.
No, I'm stupid
It's
as
very
before. I'm like the before.
Okay,
And
so
I was just like, I remember that there was like math 1, 2, and 3. So guys, we are software engineers, both of us.
okay, I mean, I kind of agree and disagree at the same time. If you are a software engineer and you are doing kind of normal SaaS development, you're just backend coder, you're just doing databases, REST APIs, you won't need math. That's for sure. I mean, you can literally make good money without math knowledge. But again, when I jumped,
how deep is your knowledge, the math knowledge that you need to work in blockchain?
if you are, well, let's separate. There are blockchain developers who are developing blockchains. Literally, they're writing code for the nodes that are running on the computers that are mining and mining new blocks. The math level for this is very high. You really need to know shit. Otherwise, you're not able to like calculate anything. There are a lot of calculations. On the other side, I think like, okay, so before, like in the traditional coding, we usually had system engineers, right? The people who develop Linux, for example, or Windows. They develop operation system and platforms where the applications run. And then we have application developers, which are like us, right? We just develop the software that runs on those operational systems. So usually the math knowledge for the operational system engineers, it's much more demanding because you are operating on a very low level with the bytes. You have to know how the memory works, and then it requires a lot more math. So with the blockchain, it's kind of the same. So when you're a blockchain developer, you really need to know the math. You really need to know it. You need to know the algorithms and things like that.
Do you think that is the right way to proceed? Is studying something when during the university, with the uncertainty that will not be needed at all, or studying what you really need when you need? So for example, if you don't know something, usually what you do, you just Google it, right? So you have like a question, you look for an answer. What is the reason that why we should study something in this case like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and after you don't have a need in that moment? Because here you are telling me you need the math for doing blockchain developers.
Yep.
How many people are blockchain developer going out from computer engineering?
Before we go, I ask you to...
One every 500? So why the 499 people needed to study math at that level without the real need of doing that?
I want to finish my previous thought. So if you're like a platform / blockchain developer, you need math a lot. But if you are like a DeFi application developer, when you're developing smart contracts, you still need math to a pretty decent level, to be honest. When I'm showing other engineers what we are actually doing on the daily job, they're like so confused. They're so confused because you need, I mean, of course, you don't really need to be like a rocket science.
Can you make an example of what level of math you need? Because I believe that there are different levels. I don't say that is useless. What I say is that the level that at the university where I did the math 1, 2, and 3, and 4, if I'm not wrong, was like unneeded for the real world scenario. I'm working on a level that I know everything, but probably I could have been surviving easily by looking for a solution for problems that I needed to go solve from time to time.
All right. So if you really want to be a top engineer in the Web3 and DeFi space, I would say that you definitely need to know what is an integral and derivative.
Okay.
You really need to know how to draw the charts and plots and how to plot it. And you really need to be aware of how you can build the complex mathematical systems, because this is what the finance is. Like when you develop something financial, you have a lot of moving pieces. Of course, you develop everything. You start with equilibrium, where everything is in balance. And you start from there. And then you have a lot of moving pieces and components, and which is...
Equilibrium and balance are the same thing.
Well, yes. But yeah, I'm just saying. And yeah, so my point is you need to be able to model that. Model that system. So it's like mathematical modeling. Of course, it's not like a rocket science when you have to develop the rocket engine, but it's quite advanced. So in my case, I had to go and remind myself about what I was studying in the university to the pretty advanced level. Of course, I was not like reading the theorems from the university. That's useless. But in order to understand some research papers made by other people about how their protocol works, I need to know, because there are, when you open the research paper, like a white paper, for the first like 5 pages, you just see formulas with the deltas, with the integrals, and then you have to understand how this all works. Otherwise, you will be just, I'm just using that protocol, but you have no clue about how it works. And then you can always steal it, because it's open source. If you want to do something new,
Depends from the license. It's not stealing if it's
Yeah.
approved.
yeah, I'm just quoting stealing. I'm just saying like you just fork it, and usually how other protocols appear, they are just a new version of some protocol that was built 2 years ago. It's just more talented engineers. They just picked up that protocol and they just improved it. But in order to do it, you need to understand the math. So I would say this is more interesting for me because I finally, at the age of the 32 years, I can apply some math in what I'm doing. And I'm really happy about it because I have the practical usage of that math. This is my answer to this.
I don't think so. I think that you can make your research when you need something, especially for math, because it's like in your particular case is needed, but not in people that are working in completely different.
Okay, so
places.
your another question was how many blockchain developers are out there? So for example,
One,
500 students on the course and only one will become a blockchain developer. Well, that's pretty accurate estimate in my mind, I would say. So, and your question was, should all of those 500 engineers study math?
not I. They should study math,
Okay.
but not like on extremely extremely deep levels, probably.
Okay.
Or better, you should leave the students to decide by themselves which are the subjects they need to study, because anyway there are study courses and there are subjects exams that you need to do. So it's not you deciding, is you decide the direction, and after there are subjects that you need to pass.
I thought in Europe you can select
No,
the subjects you're studying.
you can select. There is a main study path, and after there are some of them that you can select, but not all of them. There is the main the main per course that you have, that is that one.
Okay.
So there are the mandatory, at least how was before. I don't know if in these last 10 years the things changed, but the point is that there are subjects that are mandatory and you cannot skip them.
How about, I have another thought. So, as we just discussed, math might be important, right? And for some
Yeah.
people, it might be extremely important. Depends on what they want to do with their lives, right? What professions they choose to pick. But is it really worth spending 3 or 5 years at university studying just that subject and not gaining any practical knowledge?
Depends that one from the university where you are. I can tell you that they have labs, of course, but not for all the subjects. They have like something that they think who the organizer of the course think that is more important than something else. So it's more a decision of the university. Maybe it's more about deciding where to move the funds than anything else. Of course, they have a budget. They need to decide. Okay, we have our mandatory classes. After we need to have some mandatory labs, and so it's always allocation of money. How much money they have, how much money they can allocate to make a degree more to one direction or more to another direction. Of course,
How much practice did you have in university, by the way?
I would say like 30% of the subjects.
Okay, that's pretty decent percentage.
Yeah, but I remember that at the time I was doing the things, but I was not appreciating it, because anyway, it's if you really wanted to follow that path. At the end of the day, more you study something, more you get used to that thing. So I remember that happened more than once, that I was like going to an exam and thinking, I don't really want to go there. I just want to do something else. I want to go to the beach, taking sun. And after I was just like, okay, let's take a coffee. Let's do breakfast. Let's give it a shot. And I was like passing the subject. Why? Because when you study enough, you are relaxed and you just do it. You don't have any stress, any worry about that. You could get 26, 28, 30, but at the end of the day, it's not really what that matters is how much of that information remains to your mind. Because I think that nowadays, after all this time, if you are not using that information, is it really worth the time that you spent at the university if you don't have memory of what you studied? For example, I was studying at the high school philosophy. I
Okay.
was studying Latin.
The Latin language, you mean?
Yeah,
Why would you do it in the high school?
in Italy they do it. There are like the scientific high school, they studied Latin. In the classic high school, they study Greek, ancient Greek, not even the modern
In
one.
Italy.
In Italy.
Interesting.
So, what I mean is that do you think that people, after 20, 30 years that they start working, they have their life, they have memory of Latin language or something that anyway they didn't use it for all the time? They may have like a really small memory.
If you have a very small memory about the Latin language, can you still say something in Latin?
Cave canem,
What does it mean?
be aware of the dog. It's real.
Well, see, this is useful, right? If you say it in Latin, I mean,
Yeah.
you're like telling people, do not come to my yard. I have a dog.
Yeah, of course, but they cannot read it because in a different language that is dead.
Okay.
So this is the problem that I think that the university classes should be a bit more flexible and up to date to the real needs of the modern life.
But how do you make it up to date? For example, let's think about this problem from the direction that most of the schools, in Finland at least, they're public schools. They are funded by the government. Of course, there are some private schools, but I think the percentage between the public and private schools in Finland is very like in the side of the public schools. So how would you force people who work for government, who have their warm seats and they will still get their salaries paid, to be proactive and to proactively change and keep up the product the programs up to date? How would you do it?
Okay, let's start
Wh-
from
When,
the beginning.
when you work for a government, you
have-
secured
you have-
yourself a warm seat. You don't have to worry
You
anymore.
have your salary.
Yeah.
You have to do nothing new. You don't have to study new things. You don't have to keep yourself updated. It's like a golden seat.
Exactly.
So why you should do something? I would
And-
stay there doing nothing. Like every year the same stuff. I will get paid. So they should change on the government level. They should think that there are like a lot of talent people that would like to have that position. So why to keep? Imagine that nowadays when we are working corporate as also in your case for a contractor, if you don't keep high the performance, they can kick you out.
Yep.
Why there are people at the government?
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime, literally. If I
You
stop
take care of your brand, you take care of continue keeping your performance, your studying, everything up to date. But there is someone that does not care. to
Exactly.
that.
And usually those are the people who work for the government. Hence, it affects the modern education system, which is very outdated. Very, very outdated.
What is the solution? What do you suggest?
I know that most people will hate me for saying this, but I would just say that a lot of people, they say like Finland is so good because it has a public and free education.
They also say that is the most happy country of the world. But still, it is dark, cold, and wet outside. So I don't know how they did that study.
Yeah, so how I would change it? I would change it a bit more towards the private schools and private education. So, for example, why most of the good engineers, like rocket scientists, they're coming from the United States still? Because they have MIT. Because they have a lot of good universities where people
They are all
go.
private.
Yeah, they're all private. Exactly. MIT,
Oxford.
Yeah.
But also, if you go in Italy, there are like the Polytechnic of Turin, there is the Bocconi, there is the Luis. There are all private universities.
Okay, so I mean, if you want to stimulate people who organize those universities, who keep them up and running, you have to pay them money. And
Yeah.
and those money, they should be really good amounts of money, obviously. And then
But at the same time, you said that when you need to hire someone, you don't check their education, you give more importance to other things in their resume.
I mean, this is the point. If you wanna go,
If-
I mean, this was
Imagine this. I come out from the MIT.
Mhm.
I don't have any GitHub account, open source project, anything, but I have this master degree at the MIT, and there is another guy that has GitHub with some contribution to some open source project. Who do you call to the first interview? You have only one option.
You got me here. I honestly, I don't know. I don't have. I really need to think about it. Probably in this case, I mean, if it's just a random guy, I mean, depends on the location. If it's just a random, let's say they're both Americans, I would say maybe I would still call the MIT guy.
Oh.
I mean, in my mind, the MIT has such an impeccable reputation. They have a reputation. Most of the the smartest people in the world, they're from MIT. They're really from MIT, but those people, they literally paid how much? $20,000 per year for their university course.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they have enough practice there. Again, maybe I don't know
But also
shit about
consider that
MIT.
if you don't keep up with the exams, in that case, they kick you out. So it's not only paying
Exactly.
the admission for the year, I don't know how it's called. But at the same time, I think that if you finish there, is because you are paying, yes. But at the same time, you need to keep all the classes, exam, all your votes. How is
Yep.
vote in English?
Vote.
Vote. Okay, great. I ask things in English, in Italian, so it's fine. You
Okay.
understand?
Yeah, so I mean, the point is students pay so much money to attend MIT, to
Mhm.
graduate from MIT. And in my mind, I think that the professors and the people who run this university, they have the budget to keep up with the recent updates in the tech industry and the science.
You know why?
Tell me.
Otherwise, there will not be students applying for that university the next year. Only the top of the top want to go there. Just a little amount of people is accepted to be part of that university to attend those courses. And yeah, in that case, you know that if someone survive, because we talk about surviving that university, get graduated. I think that we'll have some better energy, some reason why. It's someone usually that is proficient, that is autonomous, that even if does not have a solution now, will spend the time, will think, will understand what are the better options for solving some specific problem that is in front of him. So but it's not only the MIT, of course. Here there
Yep.
are different examples that are in the planet.
But if the education is free,
You love the MIT, of course.
yes.
If it's free, it's
If
for
it's free,
everyone.
it's for everyone. And then how can you really build the reputation if it's free for everyone? Of course, you can narrow down the fuel
Okay,
for the
but-
students and raise up the standards for the students that are applying. But still, how would you incentivize professors to become better at what
Okay.
they're doing? Because let me finish my thought. So in this Polytechnical University that I was graduating from, I spent there 5.5 years, by the way. So it was a mixed experience, of course, but most of the professors, they were going there, I don't know, maybe just to have some experience of teaching students and put them into their resume that they were doing that in the Polytechnical University. But if you don't pay them a high salary, how would you incentivize people to become better, to become motivated, to become interesting to the students? Because most of the lectures and most of the students were like, okay, students, we have 1 hour class. Now open your books on the page 94 and let's start with reading the theorem, or let's dive deep into mechanics. But it was not, really engaging. It was just like very dry information no one really cared about.
In that case, it's better to don't go at all. But you
This
said
is what
also
I
that,
did. I just didn't go.
but you said also that that one was a public university.
Yes.
If you were changing country and you were going to some private, I don't know, Oxford, how can or MIT, but that is really far anyway. That
Yeah.
one means that you needed to really change everything. That case, what you think? You think that was like better? Is the problem the teacher, or is the problem that you don't have the right direction? Because imagine that if you knew since the beginning what you wanted to do, probably you were studying by yourself first, so you have like some base knowledge, and after at that point you would have been like excited to apply to a private university where there was like that kind of lecture because of that teacher, and was like much more clear your direction.
We actually had some professors that were really excited about what they were doing, but like ironically enough, most of those professors who were really excited, they were
Fired?
they were successful businessmen in their real life. They were just doing professorship, like teaching people, just because they really liked it and they didn't really care about the money. And they were really, those lectures, they were the best in my lives. I remember we had the one professor and he was teaching us mechanics, which is, I mean, for me, this is the most uninteresting topic in the world. But still, that professor was so engaging. I was attending all the lectures of that professor. Even though I don't really remember much from the mechanics, I passed for the highest, I passed my exam for the highest grade just because the professor was very talented and he was really explaining it all in a very interesting and engaging way, which I really liked. But
it was not a real teacher.
no, he was a professor, but he was a really, like, he was doing a lot of like real world business on the side, and he was just coming to the university just because he liked it. He liked the vibe. He liked to speak with the students. He liked to teach, and this is the motivated person. All other professors who were like full-time professors serving in a uni, they were like very unmotivated. Most of the time, they were just like looking at us and like sighing, like, why the fuck are you all here? I need to do it once again. I'm so tired. And it was all written down on their faces that they don't want to be here.
So maybe it's just the system university that is wrong, and they should keep evaluating their professors there, so that if there is someone that is unmotivated, will not have any class, and if they will not have any class, they will basically
Here's another problem with
get
that.
money.
Here's another problem. If one professor was teaching for a very long time and he did something really good in the past, it's really, really hard to fire those people, especially from the public universities, because those people, they built reputation in the past.
Okay, but think this. If I work for a company, I do the day one something really good, and after I do nothing for the next 10 years, do you think that they will not kick me out at any layoff round?
They will. But in university, it's very different. In academia is very different from the corporate, right? Because in the academia, you have this hierarchy, which in my opinion is stronger than the corporate hierarchy. And usually it's like gatekeeping opinions. And when the group of professors decided that they don't want to, pass one opinion from another group, they just won't let it go. And this is like the problem. And the same with the firing professors that are unmotivated.
Is there in Kiev
Yes.
the situation where you have imagine that you are a professor, you have a son, and because of that he will become like professor as well, so that all the doors will be open for him. Let's call
Okay.
it the nepotism.
I actually had even a worse example of that. I already spoiled the name of my university, but we had one professor, and she was a wife of the director of the university. She was the wife. And I'm sorry to tell this.
Happen.
I'm sorry to tell this. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to name the names, but
In Italy, there are a lot of cases of this. It's nothing new for me. So
you can guess.
sorry if I'm not excited about.
You can guess the quality of that professor, the wife of the head of the university.
Probably she was teaching some extremely like basics of informatics, something like that.
Oh my God! You just hit the point
that
precisely.
You can just like take any YouTube video with some Indian.
Yes. Let's learn
teaching,
some
like-
Java today. Hello, everyone. You exactly hit the point by 100%.
So something basic, something basic, really basic to teach that they could even skip it by leaving 20 pages to read.
Exactly. How do we improve the education? And I want to take a hive as an example. Can you tell our viewers what is a hive?
I don't know. You should tell me. I think that you have much more
Okay.
experience with that. I
Okay.
guess it's something that was born in France and that was brought here by Supercell, if I'm not wrong.
Really? I didn't know it. This is some new information. I just knew some people who were graduated from Hive. But okay, I can go from there. So Hive, in my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, in the comments, please. So the Hive is the place where people go and they have a bit of the theory. Well, this is kind of like a institution / university. I don't know if you can graduate from it, but people go there.
I think it's a private institution, it's not any university.
Yeah. Okay, so you go there as a student and you will get just a little touch of the theory, but then you will get a real task with another group of people and you will be working on something real and you have to deliver the project. And in my mind, this is how all the modern education should be.
How will change if with the AI? Because imagine that nowadays, like, you have the project, you just write, okay, do this, and that. Project done.
In AI, with AI. Okay, let me
Yeah.
finish about the Hive.
Of course, I
So-
will ask any precise, please write every single class, header, implementation, everything.
Let's finish about the Hive. So about the Hive is, I think it's really good because people are able to actually apply their knowledge to something real world. And I would say we hired a couple people from the Hive and they were not really even graduated at that moment. They were looking for some summer practice in the companies. And we hired a couple junior guys and for like a summertime. So
Summer
like,
training.
yeah, like 4 months max. But in the end,
They were paid?
yeah, they were paid. They were paid maybe for the Finnish norms were like 2,000 euros or something, which is kind of good for the people who are like 18, 19 years old and like doing part-time job. And we actually ended up hiring them for the full-time positions in the future
Oh, that's good.
for like a middle devs, middle, like junior middle. And
So the summer trainee was hired not even as a junior, but as a middle,
Yes.
like a regular developer.
Exactly. And I remember the salaries were quite good. But the point was that we were able to hire those people as an interns and they were doing a very good job, even though I was asking them and they were lacking a lot of like theoretical knowledge.
But you know that is because youngsters usually they are really highly motivated.
Yes, exactly.
It's like you give a problem, they will do everything to solve it.
Exactly. This is what they did actually. And they were lacking a lot of like theoretical skills. They were not able to, use some algorithms when solving the problems, but it didn't matter because they anyway solved the problem and they were able to find the missing theory components they were just able to Google it and use the chat GPT, for example. And yeah, they were able to stay as a middle devs in the end. And they
will make experience.
Yeah, and they had the choice to continue studying in Hive for the last year and graduate, or stay and work in the company full time. And they all chose to go and work full time in the company, just because, I mean, if you graduate, you will get some certificate and diploma.
If you stay working, you get money. So
you will get money and you will get a practical experience on your CV on the LinkedIn. So I think it's more useful than any paper. So yeah.
Or they could do both of them?
I don't think it was possible at that time. They had like either or, so they cannot like, stay in the hive and continue working. They just had to choose. So it
You know,
was not.
usually you told me that it's possible to take multiple customers, especially when you are working as a contractor. So why not studying and working at the same time? What's the problem? At the same time, you said that it's easier to work in your same field in a different time zone. So let's think that they will attend these courses during the morning time, and they will start working between 5 and 11 of the
Yeah,
evening.
it's you have to be employed in Finland, right? Because you are kind of, doing the practice in the Finnish company, so they require you to work from the morning until like 5 or 6 p.m. So it's not possible, to go to university in the morning and then work from 5 to 9 because they really want to see you on all the daily meetings.
Are you sure that is by law? Because anyway,
It's not by law. It's not by law.
I saw different people that start working like at noon, one, around that, and for them it's fine.
I don't think there is a law that can, restrict how you work and study.
So in that case, it's possible then to do during the morning time the study classes, and after to do the what is work related.
I think it's definitely possible. Just
Probably
have to negotiate it with the manager.
they will burn out, of course, but still it's possible.
Yeah. So I think, and how I want to see the education in the future, that in universities you should not teach birds how to fly. Birds already know how to fly. You should help people to unleash their creativity. You should only teach the theory to the people to use that theory in the practical applications. So do not like study math stupidly for 2 years without application of that math. It just doesn't make sense, and you will just forget about what you've learned immediately.
I can tell you how it was in Italy, that there was the fest, the bachelor degree was not anything that was part of your specialization. So means that there was like in the first 3 years that there was like all the common subjects. So after that didn't matter if you were doing IT, civil engineering, architecture. In that part, there were like all the common subjects. And after you could like pick one or the other one. But in that case, it's like, then do you really need it? You should have just something really generic. And after, when you are like trying to specializing, there will be something with the applications. But there was not the case also for what is my experience.
Okay. And I think you were asking about the AI and the
Yeah.
education.
For about this, we said it was called Hive.
Hive, yes.
Hive. So here you're saying that they ask some project.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we're using the right prompt by Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever new large language model, you can just ask to create the solution with the complete structure to copy paste and to build the project.
Which means, in my mind, that you can build projects faster than before, and you skip all the routine that was annoying and boring, and you can focus on creativity. For example, how exciting is it to create a new Java project and work on the POM XML file and work on the Maven build files and on deployment? And with the ChatGPT, you can just skip this all and just really focus on the creative part of your project. Like, how can you want it to work? How your database connection is working? How can you optimize and like parallelize your execution?
This is
things
about
like that.
work. We are talking about Hive.
Yeah, I mean, this is example to the Hive. So the students, they can really focus on the creative part instead of just doing the routine and boring stuff.
But I think that one, the way that they analyze the project is not should be like the same one for each project of each student. So the creative part is like something extra, can give you extra points, but the 90% of the project is done. So it's like, yeah, it's the I understand about the creativity because anyway it's really important. It's the part, it's what make the difference. Because anyway, when you are working in this kind of field, you give for normal that everything will work, every specification is done as required, but at the same time, you need something more. That one is not enough. You need to show that you are doing the things in a way that is better than the market.
Exactly.
And that I think that should not be even part of this Hive program. That one is like just something that you will apply in your everyday work.
I don't know. I
There
don't
are
know.
like extra points that they
Oh,
can give.
I think
I'm not familiar with this kind of experimental education with this Hive because at my time was not existing. I was like just told recently about some friend that applied and was attending this program. But at the same time, I can tell you that yeah, it's true that the university gives you the mindset, but it's like about experience. It's much more than that. You can that's decide to study the medical school, switching to engineering, and after switching to management. It's like something that you make your path by yourself. It's something that you are the responsible for that. You decide what you want to do. You decide how you will be in 20 years. So when someone asks you the common question, how you will see yourself in 5 years, what are your career goals? Andri, what are your career goals? How you will be in 5 years?
I don't really think about the career. I mostly think
Five
about
years.
developing personal brand. I would say just expanding the people that I know. So as I mentioned in the previous podcast, I think the networking is the most important thing. So like growing the amount of people that I know on the
Mhm.
quality basis, like really good connections. And yeah, I think that's more or less it, to be honest, and just keeping up with the industry, and then maybe do more audits so I know more people, because when you do an audit for one team, you do an audit for the second team, they know that you know their code base, they can invite you for the second audit, for the third audit, and you can make some extra money out of it.
About the audit is a bit like the QAs. You know that QAs usually they're not really well seen when they find problems towards the developers. So the developer work about on some
Mhm.
functionality, and after the QA find problems in your functionality. It,
It's much more than QA. But this is a bonus point. This podcast was about the education. I can just spoil a bit. I actually wanted to record a separate video about what is an actual smart contract audit
uh-huh.
in the Web3 and the DeFi, and it's much more than the just the QA
For
Q&A.
example, I would ask in this moment, I would really like to have some comments in this video about what you would like to see in the future podcast, like next Saturday into Saturday. So you will give us ideas. Guys, here we are trying to talk about things that are generic, specific, in the best possible ways, but sometimes it's just like we can start talking about everyday life things as like walking the dog, what is the best place where to walk, Frodo or Ursa,
Where is the
that
best
kind of
pizza
things.
in the Finland?
Where is the best pizza in Finland? This one, of course, is here. I make it.
Okay.
So guys,
Okay.
see you next Friday.
Thank you
Enjoy
for
the
watching.
weekend.
Enjoy the weekend and see you next time. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.